I Didn't See That Coming by Andrea Begley. Read by Melanie MacHugh. Forward. I'm standing in a back room of a TV studio chatting to Danny O'Donoghue, lead singer of The Script, one of my favourite bands in the world. Somewhere in the background I can hear will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas talking to my mum. I later find out that at that very moment she's actually trending on Twitter. A short while later, my Aunt Philomena will sing a duet with Sir Tom Jones. So, just a normal Begley family night out then. How on earth did this happen? Winning The Voice that night was one of the most surreal moments of my life. Since that day, I've gone on to do things I would never have thought possible, and to be frank, one of those is writing this book. When I was first asked about penning a book, I have to admit I was a little uncertain of what to think. I understood that winning the show meant people were interested in my story, for want of a better phrase. But at the same time, I've always felt that winning The Voice was merely a starting point, a first step on what I hope will be a very long and successful career. Not in a bazillion years did I think I'd be singing at sports stadiums, recording albums, or writing a book when I entered The Voice in the summer of 2012. So, what I've tried to do in these pages is just give you a flavour of the path that took me to that crazy night a year later, when the British public voted me as their winner. I haven't spoken about every single minute detail of my life up until that point, because I don't feel that now is the time to do that. Instead, I've just tried to give you a picture of some of the most pivotal moments along the way. Obviously, my visual impairment, but also my own long-standing involvement with music before the show, as well as, of course, my time on The Voice. Being so closely involved with Danny and the other 3 coaches, as well as all the other amazing people I met on that programme, is the focus of this book. And I hope that by giving you a behind-the-scenes tour, you will come to appreciate that brilliant show even more. I've always enjoyed writing, whether it is creative writing, keeping a few diaries, or, most pertinently, songwriting. So this book is really just an extension of that passion. A few stories and thoughts to give you a snapshot of some important moments in my life, what I've done and where I've come from. Hopefully these anecdotes will tell you how I've reached this point where I am recording my debut album and have the most exciting times ahead of me. I'm only 26, so I'd like to think that I have a lot of living left to do yet, not just in terms of music, but life in general. Hopefully beyond this point there is still plenty of room for growth, development and further achievement. For me, then, my aim was that this book would be an insightful, interesting, and above all, fun snapshot of my life now and how I got here. A metaphorical and literal opening chapter. Chapter 1. Early Challenges. It is quite difficult for me to remember exactly when I first started to notice problems with my eyes, because I was fairly young when the initial symptoms started appearing. The condition that has impaired my vision is called glaucoma, but actually that in itself came from a pretty unusual problem called juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. When I was 3.5 years old, I developed a limp in one of my ankles, like lots of kids do from time to time. And initially, my parents thought that I'd sprained it or fallen awkwardly, or maybe even broken it somehow. However, the limp didn't improve or go away, and so Mum took me to various doctors until a proper diagnosis was made, which was when we first learned that I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is quite unusual in youngsters, and it is obviously something generally associated with older people. However, as my family discovered, it can also affect children. In essence, rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune condition where your body attacks itself because it thinks there is something wrong with the joints, but there is actually nothing wrong at all. However, that's how the body sees it, and this causes various problems. One of these problems is difficulties with your eyesight.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?